Mando season 3.
Are we going bad or are we going good here?
We'll circle back to Mando season 3 for the bad, because that'll be the bulk of the bad, I think. Yeah, one of my least favorite things, probably my overall least favorite things from Mando season 3. But one thing that did stand out that I really liked was the Battle of Mandalore, that whole sequence, but especially Paz Vizsla's death. I thought that was it's one of those things where it's a stereotypical event, right? It's very cliche, and that you have this kind of, I was like, what are you pointing at? You got him up
He's
there.
still
Nice.
in the box.
It's one of those things that's really cliche, right? Like, you kind of have this guy who doesn't get along with your hero, and he turns out to sacrifice himself for it's that story, but it was done really well. The character, you really grew to like him at the end, and the Praetorian guards were just awesome. Like, I love that sequence where they come in calmly, they dispose of him, and then they just walk out calmly. And so I'm hoping we see some more Praetorian guards. I thought that whole sequence, from his sacrifice to them just coming in and really mopping the floor with him, I mean, it was brutal. That was one of the highlights from Mando season 3. I really liked that sequence.
Did you think he was going to win for a second?
I don't know. I think I would have been disappointed if he had, because as much as I liked the character and it was sad to see him go, I think it was really cool to see these guards come in, because you see them all the time throughout the trilogy, right? They're just hanging out with the Emperor, never really do anything. And so I like that they got elevated to like this really dangerous status just in this one scene. I thought that was really cool.
No, I agree. I agree with that. I like that scene as well. When you and I were talking about like my favorite things about Mando season 3, I didn't have many. It wasn't that great. Well, like you said, we'll loop back around to it. But I will say Grogu in IG-12, right? That was its name. So he's sitting in the middle and he's like, no.
There was some pretty good comic moments from that. Yeah.
That was good. And the little Babu Frick, I forget their Andrellans or something like that. They were awesome. And then I also, thinking more and more about it, really liked, and I feel as if they almost kind of dropped it for most of the season, which we'll get to. But at the end, him and Grogu both fighting Moff Gideon and those droids, or was it was the clones that he had? Or something, the force-powered troopers. I thought that was good because every season gets you to where you're nervous for Grogu. And this season kind of made it wait until the very end. And I just remember I was sitting in the airport. I was traveling for work. And it was like 5 a.m. I was waiting on a flight. And I'm watching that last episode. And Grogu's like in that suit. And then he ends up out of it. And he's like super sad and scared. And I was like, oh, no, they're not going to do something and leave us on a cliffhanger here. And then he won and he stopped the fire and everything, which was very much like Kanan, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a neat ending episode for sure. The Battle of Mandalore was pretty solid.
Yeah, for a season that was pretty aimless and pointless and really struggled to find a lot of good in it. The ending was, at least, I thought it was the best part of the season for sure. the last little bit.
Let's just go ahead and knock out the negative.
Oh man, I just didn't feel like there was a point to season 3. I think they had to have a season 3. I think there were some very loose plot elements they wanted to push forward for other things, and they did a full-on season for. Yeah, I mean it was a filler season. I hate to say it, but I look back on it and there's nothing in it where I was like, oh yeah, that was really compelling. Like, that was really interesting. Like, there were little things I think where they tried to insert it, like with the Mythosaur and stuff like that, but it was stuff that really just. Yeah, they didn't really do anything with it. They just kind of the episode I hate most, I think it's called Hired Guns, where you have the robots attacking in the city.
The Lizzo episode?
Yes. So I thought that was a cool concept, right? Like the idea of these robots turning and like trying to figure out what it was. Ultimately, it was just some guy who pushed a button and turned them bad. I thought that was, I think it was Doc Brown, wasn't it? Wasn't that?
It was Back to the Future.
But yeah, no, but that is my least favorite episode, simply because, and it really has a lot to do with Lizzo and Jack Black. Not them, nothing against them, I don't listen to Lizzo, but I understand she's a very successful musician, artist. Love Jack Black, think he's hilarious. But when they showed up in Star Wars, I was just like, what are we doing? Like what is this now that we have completely just decided we're not going to tell a story and we're just going to throw anyone into this show just for the heck of it. So I hated that. Not because of them. They're fine. It's just it made no sense and it was going nowhere, and that was kind of like the last straw for me with season 3. I was like, this is ridiculous.
So first of all, the season went nowhere, and I kept like we've talked about it, going, "Oh, this is just kind of a stepping stone for Ahsoka or something like that."
Yeah.
That was the logical explanation. Like, oh, there couldn't be much here because it was just like the next logical step.
Right.
No, it wasn't. I don't know. Like Zeb shows up in The Mandalorian, but not in Ahsoka. The heck? I mean, that makes no sense. Then the longest streaming episode in Star Wars is the clone doctor and the bad girl that's a good girl but a bad girl. That's the longest streaming episode in Star Wars. There could be an Andor one longer, but it's the longest Mandalorian. And all that episode was to say is, uh-oh, the Empire is actually not gone again in 55 minutes. I don't
even think needed to be said, right?
We knew it. They're never gone.
Kind of all expected they were hanging out somewhere.
The minute the Empire's gone is the minute Star Wars ends. That's why it has to keep coming back.
In some form, yeah.
So that was stupid. That was just absolutely stupid. Then the Jack Black and Lizzo episode, I keep having a feeling at some point they're going to loop back to them because like they've got a Mando, they have an IOU for him or something. I hope they don't, because it didn't make much sense. But that episode was just strange. And then the lead up to the Battle of Mandalore, it was like a whole episode of not much. And then the very end, they get Paz.
Yeah.
It just seemed like the season was filler. And I hate to say filler, but it was nothing happens. Nothing happens.
I don't know if the timetable got shifted because the Mandalorian became far more successful than they expected it to. They're like, hey, we need to do more of this sooner than maybe was initially planned. I don't know, but it just definitely felt rushed and unnecessary. And again, it's nothing against the writers, directors, all those people. They're putting out the content they're expected to put out. I just think it needed some time and some more development to really push things along the way, because season 1 and season 2 were great. They told a really engaging, compelling story, but season 3,
peak Star Wars,
not so much.
Maybe we look back in 5-10 years when the whole Mandalorian story is over and we go, that makes sense. But as of today, it just looks like they just put something out to keep people subscribed to Disney Plus and to sell some more Grogu stuff. I don't know.